a great Tony Mart aficionado, a major figure in the history of the media coverage in Tony Mart. And thank you for coming back again. Bob Everland from The Hoot. Welcome back, Bob.
Hey, how's it going, man? Yeah, formerly of The Hoot. The Hoot's really not even available anymore. That's gone.
Right. Formerly of The Hoot. You now work for Universal.
Exactly. A long time ago.
And you do a lot. You're an executive there coordinating accommodation.
Well, I'm not the executive. I'm what they call a vacation planner. I made a choice when I moved to Florida not to no longer be involved in actual management. I've been here many, many years, but I've chosen not. I don't want to go up any further. But I'm what they call a vacation planner. I'm one of the most experienced in our division. I think I might have most seniority. I'm now there 23 years, 7.5 months, which I believe, as far as the vacation planners themselves go, is the longest longevity. Some bosses have been here longer than I have. Come to mind, a couple of their managers, but aside from that, no. But yeah, what I actually do is I go out to we have what they call a partnership program with hotels and resorts around Orlando, and our division called Destination Universal has desks in those hotels, and we sell Universal's tickets and Universal products, not clothing, but I don't mean that, but I mean like ticket products, basically admission products and things that go along with that. And we've been around a long time, and we have a great reputation. We have a lot of great partners. I have the pleasure of working in one particular hotel, which I had told you about off the air, owned by Mr. Harris Rosen, who is the largest owner as far as local owners go in Orlando, resort hotels. And
many people will recognize that name. There are a lot of Rosen hotels, beautiful mid-rise, high-rise hotels in the I-5 area, right, Bob?
Yeah, he also owns a college, it's a hospitality school where they actually educate people and have degrees out in the hospitality industry. And then he also owns an aquatic center. And Mr. Harris Rose is amazing, man. I love this guy. We're good friends. He's in his 80s, and if you met the guy, except for his white hair, I've always thought you darken your hair, you could tell you were 20 years younger. But the reason for that is this man, he lives the healthiest lifestyle you can imagine. He does not drink, he does not smoke, and this man is an avid swimmer, and he now owns this aquatic center, which used to be old YMCA, which he took over and turned it into an aquatic center as the YMCA was going under, which was a sad day, but thank goodness he was around, and he turned it into a first-class aquatic center. This man is known to swim up to 7 miles a day, if you can imagine that. And that's for real. And I've seen the guy swim, and the shape that he's in is incredible. And when you meet him and see how he gets around, and he's got such an energy level and so slim and trim, it's incredible, man. The man I so respect and so admire. And his story, how he began with not even a line of credit or anything. He's told me the story himself, and where he's at today is just commendable. It's just amazing. He's such an example for anybody to live by. He wasn't born into a rich family. He began basically with almost nothing, and he's turned he's turned his business into an empire in Central Florida, and it's amazing, man. He's quite a guy. I'm proud to be at the desk in his hotels. I can work there.
That's what you do now. That's what you do now, and it involves Universal as well as the Rosen organization and other hotel organizations. But back in the day, in the late 70s, you were working for Lou Steiner. Herb Steiner was still around, right? And you were working the Hoot route, and you would be going from place to place, right? From Tony Mart's to the Melody Lounge, to Margate. That was the
all over. Everywhere. Myself, my account list was everything from nightclubs to restaurants and you name it. And I had a chance to meet and be friends with a lot of people. And I remember Jim Copsey had Copsey's restaurants, and I was friends with him and his family. For example, comes to mind right away. But so many come to mind. My goodness, the list is a mile long. And my old friend who's now passed away, goes to school with Zoe, and I love him to death, man. He was one of my best friends in the world over the years. Vito Finizio, that owned Vito's Pizzeria in Ocean City. And he became, a special friend. In fact, remember when my late father passed away, we came back from Florida for the funeral, and who walked into his road cab Shannon funeral home in Millville than Vito, who I had not seen in years. And he walked in the door, and my wife and I just lost it. We just wept, man. He came in and just embraced both of us, and I just thought the world of him. He and his wife and I are still friends on Facebook. His widow, and she's a great gal. Her name's Athena. Athena Bernal's her name. Just a great gal, and I think the world of her as well. But Vito was a very special friend of mine. But
this is Tony Mart Presents Music, Food, Fun, Travel. We're doing lots of traveling. We're in New Orleans. We're heading to the old Pueblo where we need rest and work. I'll be very happy to just sit at my desk and work. I've been running so much. I know that you've been putting together a couple of ideas about what we shared back in the day, the late 70s and into the 80s. You were with us right up until the end when we did the testimonial for my dad in September 1982. Give us a couple of thoughts. You know, this is the time of the year, very special time of the year, when in the old days, when he closed in the winter, this was the time we reopened. St. Patrick's Day, Palm Sunday weekend, which is early this year. Tell us some of the things, your memories about those last years at the Mart. I know you're going to have a prominent place in my book, The Legend of Tony Mart, but share a couple of things with us.
Well, the one thing that's always going to sit in my mind is I never dreamed when I first came to Tony Mart's as a young man before I even knew you guys personally. And I told the story last week about how your father himself served me my first legal beer over a bar anywhere at age 21 at Tony Mart's. I made it a point to come there because my cousin Earl, among many others, guys that I knew that were older than I that were of legal drinking age, kept saying, man, they knew my passion for music and rock and roll. And I said, you got to go to Tony Mart. This place is incredible, man. And I couldn't wait to go there, have my first beer. That comes to mind. But the other thing was going to say, if you had told me back in those days that one day I would be standing on a motion picture set on the property of Tony Mart's, I would have thought you were out of your mind. You know, and that made quite an impression on me. I remember that just being there, just seeing the guys. I never actually was on a real active movie set prior to that, and to see the kind of activity that went on there, the hustle, the bustle, and all the things going on. And one day there, I happened to be with you guys. Wasn't there a production company from Canada involved, as I recall? Am I remembering that correctly? Yeah, because this one guy came over to me. He heard me. You ever heard me? What's that?
The Davidsons were the producers from Los Angeles, and they were putting on this show, you know, and we were just hanging out, having fun. I'll never forget Tunes was there hanging out with us because he was the real rock and roll musician on the set, and we got to hang out with him, and you got to be part of that too.
Oh, yeah. It was an incredible experience. But anyway, what happened was he overheard me talking in a conversation. I forget who I was talking to about the fact that not only was I working for the Who, but I was a disc jockey, but I was also a track announcer at 3 New Jersey speedways back in those days on weekends. He said to me, he says, "Hey, I overheard you talking." He says, "You like cars?" I said, "Yeah." I said, when I was a kid, my parents were so poor we didn't have a car. I said, and growing up, I've had a passion about cars and having cars and being around cars, and I love racing. My dad took me to my first race at age 5, and I've been in love with stock car racing ever since. He says, "Hey, we're inspecting some cars outside for the time period that we're covering for the movie. They're inspecting me. He said, want to walk outside? Help me inspect them?" I was like, "Oh my God, are you kidding me?" And he took me outside, and I got to help him out with like 2 or 3 cars. I mean, nothing official, but to give some ideas to him what I thought. He threw a few questions at me, but I was just thrilled to be a part of. I mean, not only am I on the movie set now, I'm working with one of the guys in the production company here to go out there and approve these cars to be, in the background here in the movie for the time period that this movie is covering. And that was like, oh my Lord, I'm in Hollywood in Summers Point, New Jersey. What just happened here?
They were those guys, the Davidsons were from Hollywood. They had a New York group that was doing a lot of the filmmaking technically, but a lot of them were from Hollywood. So it was like West Coast meets East Coast on Bay Avenue. But I'll tell you something, we still celebrate those days. And for the first time ever this year, Bob, first time ever, we're going to have an Eddie and the Cruisers 4th of July party on the beach in Summers Point on Thursday, July 4th. And it is going to be a hell of a good time because John Cafferty and Beaver Brown is coming down to perform. And, that's a huge thing. On the beach in Summers Point Thursday, on the boardwalk in Atlantic City on Wednesday the 3rd, John Cafferty and Beaver Brown. And he is so much a part of that whole sound. Springsteen, Gary U.S. Bonds, Southside John.
Well, he knows, Carmen, he knows everybody. He goes around, does all-star rock and roll shows that he organizes. And he gets some of the biggest rock and roll stars. And in fact, he has appeared several times now at the Hard Rock Live on our property at Universal City Walk. We have live shows there. It's a concert venue. And John has been there a number of times, and each time brings a whole contingent of rock and roll stars with him, and they put on a heck of a show, man. When I told friends of mine that have gone to these shows, I said, "Hey, see a guy named John Cafferty?" I said, "I know him." "You know him? How do you know him?" Right. I tell him the story. I said, "There's a lot of people that I know in the industry, but I met him through the movie, Eddie and the Cruisers. That was our first ever association of any kind at all." And I said, but then later down the road, after my wife had passed, and about a year or so after her, when they did that rock and roll show at the down near Disney, at the City of Celebration, and me and my family all went to that. And my sister had told John Cafferty about what I had gone through. I think I told you the story last week, and how he came out from backstage, and he brought me backstage. We took a walk back by a lake back there before the show began, and it was very comforting. Held me in his arms and everything. So what a decent guy. And then Tunes came out ultimately and gave me a hug, man, and expressed his thoughts to me about how he was so sorry what I had gone through. But they both showed me what I love to see. The thing I loved most about meeting big name entertainers, and I remember meeting and working with one of my absolute all-time idols, and saw the same thing, and that was with Jerry Lewis, who showed me his very personal side when we were alone privately, and just what an amazing guy he was. But Tunes and John Cafferty showed me they were a whole lot more than this very accomplished rock and roll musicians. They're real human beings with a heart and a soul, man,
These people are living legends. You don't have to, it doesn't take long to call this list. Bruce Springsteen, Gary U.S. Bonds, the great Southside Johnny, John Cafferty, and Beaver Brown. When you hear Cafferty, you are living the legacy of Tony Mart, of the East Coast, of Jersey Shore. It's an amazing experience. He's so great.
Oh, yeah.
Tunes is in his 80s, right, man? He's in his early 80s. I'm 7. I'll be 74 myself in May. And I'm almost positive John's a few years older than I. But his exact age, I really don't know, to be honest with you. I don't think he likes to publicize it, but he is just one of the greatest. And that's a perfect response, Bob, as to the greatest things that happened to us at the end. That was May of 1982 that we did the Cruisers. And in September, we signed the papers and did the testimonial to my father, and that was it. And that was the end of that phase of my life, which we are now reliving all the time. And I can't thank you enough for what you did then. You were so supportive, always helping us. Not everybody knows how tough it was, how hard my brother Tony and I worked to keep that place going, and people that volunteered to help us, and you were one of those people. And for that reason,
you were gifted too. That with what incredible mom and dad. They were just, in my eyes, they will. And I will always think of your mom and dad as almost like being saints. They were incredible, and the way they both brought me into your family, man. You and Tony first, and then your mom and dad just opened their arms to me and my wife and my kids, and it meant the world. I mean, as I said last week, if those who weren't listening, Tony Mart himself gave me the cash in each case to buy both of my sons their very first strollers. Something I'll never forget, man. I'm sure to your dad, that was just something that's how he was, the kind of guy he was. To me, that was huge. That was huge. And I'm like, wow. I mean, just blew us away, man. I love your dad. I love your mom and dad so much, man.
Remember what he used to say about Lou? God bless him. We love Lou Steiner. My father used to say, "Hey, it's the publisher of the New York Times."
Your dad had a great sense of humor, man.
Thank you for so much. I'm looking forward to having you come and see us and continuing to be a part of the Tony Mart legacy. Thank you for being with us last week. We had a great time at Universal. I have to mention that Born Stunt show was a great new show at Universal.
It's phenomenal. It's phenomenal.
Tremendous.
Just phenomenal.
You are tremendous, and we love you, and thank you so much for being with us, Bob.
Hey, it's my pleasure, man. It's an honor to be a part, to hear those words. I'm a part of the Tony Mart legacy. That means more to me than I even, as good as I think I am with words. I'd spent my whole thing. I've always said I have no other skills. I can't fix things, repair things, build things. I've always been a great communicator. And having said that, to try to express my appreciation, how you and your family let me be a part of the Tony Mart legacy and the Murata family. That to me was even more important, to be quite honest with you, man. That's where it gets real personal. And when we would come to your home for those family events you guys would have with that great food, man. Oh my God, for those listening, those things began in the morning about 11 o'clock and went till God knows at night. You can't imagine how much incredible food. My God Almighty, the food. And what the beverages too. We won't discuss the beverages, but there was a lot of them. But the food, the food was incredible. Oh my God.
Always plenty of wine. My mother was the epitome of a great Italian American mother, a great Italian American woman, and her side of the
and a great Italian mama. A great Italian mama, I might say. I had many Italian friends through my lifetime, and your mom is right up there at the very tip top, man. As far as the classic Italian mama goes, she was it, man. Nobody had to worry about nothing when your mom was around. She was watching over all of us, man.
She was the absolute greatest. I think about her every day. And at Christmas when I cook, I think about her 3 times a day while I'm cooking. Everland, thank you, my friend. God bless.
All right, man, I love you, buddy.
For being part of the family, and we'll be in touch.
I'm glad you enjoyed your day at Universal, man. I'm glad I was able to be in. That's one good thing about being in my job, that each one of we employees get a certain amount of comp tickets every quarter put into an account. And some mine have been accumulating for a while. We haven't been using as many as we had for a while, so I had quite a few in there. And to be able to set up you and Nancy for a free day at Universal was absolutely my honor, man. And what's good, it was a park to park. You had a chance to see both of our theme parks, and we're very proud. In fact, the one park there, Islands of Adventure, just 2 years ago, very proud to say, was actually named the #1 theme park in the world. So we were very, very, very proud of that. You can well imagine.
People were having so much fun. Thank you again, my friend. I got to run.
All right, man. Love you, buddy.
Schedule, but God bless you, Everland. Take care. Bob Everland, formerly of the Hoot Hoot, now, of course, Universal Studios in Orlando. Thank you again, Bob.